Hey y'all, and welcome to Politibrawl. My name is Brian, and this woman embodies the true, rugged nature of the spirit of the people that live in Appalachia. And of course, it's President Trump that is out there talking with the people still affected by Hurricane Helene. Let's dive in.
Pastor Nick's, our church right down the road. We had only purchased in May, and it's a big church. We're a small congregation. And I had people say, what are you going to do with this big building? And I said, only God knows. And we had our dedication, and the storm came the next week. And the outpouring of people, my son brought the first load of supplies. And from there, I stayed there for about 3 months. I slept on the floor for about 3 weeks because the need was so great. The people were so devastated, and I said, I want to be here for them. And they were coming in just day and night, so there's really no need for me to go home. But we had people from Kentucky, Tennessee, Texas, Indiana, Oklahoma, people from all over. We have not received any help, like from the government or anything. But I said, Lord, if you want us to do that, people.
So they came from
all over the states.
But FEMA did nothing.
It was
No.
the
FEMA's
locals.
waste of time and money.
The locals and the people that knew us. And before the week was over, our church was so packed with supplies we couldn't even walk. Even in our sanctuary, it was up to the platform of things, and in our halls and in our rooms, and we're just now beginning to get a little straightened out. But somebody said, how long are you going to be here? I said, I'm going to be here through the winter and even on, if possible, because when you meet people that's been through the struggle. I had a little lady come up, and I said, can we do anything special for you? And she said, I don't want to be selfish, but said, could I have a cup of coffee? And I handed her that coffee, and she stood there, and tears just poured. She said, you don't realize how important that the little things. It's not the big things in life that we have, but it's the little things, and knowing that God is our source. I don't look to man. I don't have to have a lot of things. I had trees, about 20 trees down in my yard, but that didn't really matter. Doesn't matter, because the needs of the people is what I want to be there for. God is good. He's very good. And my daughter now, her house is really in bad shape, and I'll let her tell you about that. But thank you, President. This is our president. We appreciate you so much.
And so do I, ma'am. Y'all, that's the spirit of Appalachia right there. Someone who's lost everything goes up to someone offering help and saying the words, I don't mean to be a bother, but can I get a cup of coffee? Okay, my roots are from Appalachia. My dad's side of the family, North Georgia. Mom's side of the family, East Tennessee. Very rural people, but definitely Appalachian. Not up in the hills and hollers of the Great Smokies and the Blue Ridge. That's arguably a different breed of cat altogether, but we're still Appalachians. And so when that hurricane came through, and my dad and I were watching the TV, we're watching the radar, realizing how bad the storm was going to be, our first thoughts were out to Samaritan's Purse, because that's sort of the region that they're from, and they're known for helping people on the ground. I had the good fortune of working with them in the cleanup of the city of Galena in Alaska, summer 2014. Granted, I was as useless as a bump on a log. I was terrible at helping them out, but that's where my roots come from. And so when I hear people tell these stories that they lost everything in the hurricanes and the flooding, but they're still resilient, they still have hope, and they genuinely don't like bothering people. That's sort of a pioneer spirit that we've kind of just lost, and it's slowly slipping away. Just that whole ideal, not of being a bother perhaps, but that whole idea of humility, not wanting to be a leech, standing up for yourself, even when Mother Nature took everything from you. And this is Providence foretold. This was a new church building that had just got dedicated moments before a major flood. Oh, yeah, you talk about Providence. That was it right there. That's the whole point of our religious centers, of our churches, of our synagogues. The whole point of those is for places for people to come to take respite, for people to take rest, for people to come together and know that they're in good community, they're in good hands, they can worship in freedom. That's the whole essence of being American. And meanwhile, you have Donald Trump, who's just standing by there, and in classic Trump fashion, this is why I genuinely like the dude. Because in nearly every single clip, he changes the mic setting for the person behind him. Now, some call that common courtesy, but I've seen it happen too many times where politicians forget that entirely. They want to make their speech and get out of there so they can go and talk to their donors. Not Trump. Trump is a boots on the ground kind of dude. And that's sort of the mentality that is prevalent in the GOP. That's why the Appalachians went so hard for the dude. Remember, these are evangelical Appalachians from the South, all supporting a New Yorker who is not very religious and has had multiple marriages. There is some deep connection here, and that's it. That's it right there. Because Donald Trump isn't giving a handout. He is merely there to help and support wherever he can. That's what we deserve in a good leader. That's what makes people say, I want to follow this dude. That lead by example. We didn't have that in the last administration when this disaster struck. And when this disaster struck, FEMA came into the North Carolina hills and hollers and parts of East Tennessee, South Carolina, and Georgia. By the way, Georgia got hit pretty hard as well. And a lot of the folks in FEMA weren't happy about helping there. As a matter of fact, there was a major scandal where one contractor told her workers, if you see a Trump sign, do not offer them any aid whatsoever. She claimed, oh, this was a risk because these people don't like federal agents. Well, yeah, we don't like federal agents because you keep misusing our money. And then when you had money set aside for us in the middle of a La Nina, which means that there's a more likely set of hurricanes coming your way, the Biden administration allowed money to be taken out of FEMA and quite literally handed to the Health and Human Services Department to help with illegal immigration rulings. Okay, that's why people are mad. And yet, this one right here, you don't see anger in her eyes. You hear gratuity. You hear service. You hear people giving their word, giving their labor, their time, their efforts, all to make sure that their community is made whole again. And meanwhile, you have a president sitting by who's standing there giving as much support as he can. Now, I don't want to say this to diminish the wildfires out in LA, because those are always bad. Wildfires are no joke. When I was a park ranger, there were a couple of lightning strikes, and well, I woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning to hear sirens screaming off into the distance, where the local firefighter department had to go out into the national park and put out a major sagebrush fire. Those are problems, and they happen everywhere. But the response to the wildfires got a little more attention in the media because it happened north of LA. Meanwhile, I have not seen the same outpouring. And yet there he is, Donald Trump himself, with the victims. Something Joe Biden never did, something Kamala Harris would never dream of doing. That's what leadership looks like. That's why we elected Donald Trump. This is Appalachia in a nutshell. This is why they support him, and this is why I do too. So let me know in the comments what you think of this down below. My name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed this segment here on Politibrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. And until then, y'all have a good one.